Welcome to Nostalgia Pilots, a Gundam fan cast that has spent the last 5 years living only for revenge. I'm Hugh.
I'm Jurd.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Spence.
And we're here to talk about a Mobile Fighter G Gundam, Episode 8, Revenge of the Space Police.
Was he a space policeman? Because I think he was.
He worked security. His job was security. So
he's kind of a rogue space cop.
I felt like it was like not space police that he did, but it was like he was just like out like checking.
He was the guy on the space police space desk.
Here's my theory, and
space desk job.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but here's my theory. So I don't know how prevalent it is outside of Canada, but one of the things that we are actually, I guess we should establish it's the Canada episode. It's Neo Canada through and through. Beyond Space Cops, it's Neo Canada. So one of the things that's a kind of common point of pride around those sort of days where you have common points of pride is that Canada was instrumental in launching the UN peacekeeper movement. So I don't know if this is supposed to be a reference to that, because internationally it is something we're supposedly known for. Are these space cops in the same way that the UN peacekeepers are originally largely Canadian? I do not know.
But the episode opens with this scene on like a space station that is clearly orbiting Saturn.
I thought it was like, but it was colored like Jupiter, so I thought it was Jupiter, or maybe like a latter planet that might have like small rings, because the rings weren't like super like defined like Saturn.
I agree. That was my first impression as well.
Okay.
But let's be honest, we all knew what was coming when it was like, that's right, honey. It's lonely out here, but we're one day till retirement.
Yeah. She was like a week from retirement.
No, they were like, tomorrow we're going back, and then we can start a family.
And I'm like, oh, you're not long for this world. That was my first thought, was you're just not long for this world. Enter, and then it was great because it's like you get like one screen that says danger, and then another screen that says danger. And then I think they forget that space is really, really big, because as soon as these screens say danger, impact.
Yeah, like there is a warning siren, and then half the ship is gone.
So they start doing this flirty, like, oh, honey, why are you doing that? And so they don't see the twinkling light in the distance on the view screen.
By the way, if this fake Captain Harlock Arcadia ship hadn't hit them, were they going to fuck in that chair? Because I think they were going to fuck in that chair.
Probably.
Like, they're literally the only people on that station, so...
Oh, man.
In different circumstances, that could have played out like like one of the Nathan Lowell Golden Age of the Solar Clipper books.
Yeah!
I mean, they were already married.
Right.
Yeah.
But still.
Also, man, like, who wants this job? Even if it is you and your significant other. Like, I mean, I've seen I've watched Alien way too many times to be out in the middle of space, just me and Malonesome. Like,
my guess is that no one wanted that job, and they just got the short straw.
Like, because that's one misplaced space rock, or like one just bad soil sample away from being infected, and we just got a Prometheus. Like, it's that's the worst. And luckily they don't tell us how long they were out there, because if it was like a year, oh, forget this noise. Like, you got to pay me Elon Musk money. Like super Bond villain money.
Yeah, I think you got to think of this like kind of like The Thing almost, but they're really space cops, right? So they're out there. It's immediately made clear to us that there are such things as space pirates. We don't deal with them at all, except for momentarily. But if we know there are space pirates, there's reason to have space cops out there. And I mean, they're just out there, they're stationed, they're bored. It's like they're out in a patrol car on the edge of space, waiting for a speeder to go by. And they got lucky. It's like the whole 5 years or 1 year or whatever they were out there, they haven't happened to bump into a space pirate.
Yeah, and again, this is a rip-off Arcadia if I ever saw one.
Well, I had a little bit of a space battleship Yamato vibe from the color scheme too. I don't know. There's a little bit going on there.
Yeah, I think it might have been like they could have been paying an homage to that, the space battleship Yamato or Captain Harlock, because it does have that big skull and crossbones on it, which lets you know it's space pirates.
This is another one of those things. This is another one of those things where I'm like, tell me more about this. This is a story I want to hear about. Tell me about space pirates and space cops having fights. What's up with that?
Also, Argo, like, I'm jumping ahead again, but Argo, if you're a Gundam pilot to get your friends released from jail, just use the Gundam. Like, you're space pirates anyway. Just use the Gundam, and then you're a space pirate with a space pirate ship and a Gundam.
Yeah. The Gundam series that actually is about space pirates is like a manga that they're like, oh, we're never gonna make this one into an actual series, and I'm like, it's Gundam Space Pirates, just do it.
Yeah, seriously,
make that a series. Let's look at Crossbone Gundam series, but no.
So the space pirates managed to come and smash up the space cops, and that's all just really backstory. It happened 5 years ago, and we're introduced to, and here we get the split in the sub and the dub. Lumber Gundam versus Grizzly Gundam. Well, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
I want to know what workout plan this guy's been on for 5 years, because he goes from spindly behind the desk space cop to I am all that is man. Look at this beard. Watch me rip a tree out with
that guy's workout plan is steroids and rage.
I was gonna say 5 years of cutting down trees and pea meal bacon.
And the worst part about it is he's not even splitting wood with both hands. He's one-handed wood splitting. I'm like, dude, you are strong as all outside. Oh my gosh. Also, but the beard is magnificent.
Yes. Yeah, he has a glorious flowing beard. He's huge. I'm so glad that we're done with all these skinny little twink pilots. We actually have a hot Gundam pilot now.
So the stage is set. We have the cop that is bent on revenge against space pirates, who is now Neo Canada's fighter, and we kind of know that there were space pirates around that caused this, but we focus in on Niagara Falls.
Yes.
And Rain and Domon just hanging out, and Rain's like, why can't we just enjoy the sights? And Domon's like, I'm not here to enjoy the sights. I'm here to fight. And they have a real fight, between them.
I was like, Spence is like, that's right, Rain, leave him.
Leave him. He's no good for you.
Go to Jiminy Crockett. Become a bunny.
I do want to mention before we do get the establishing shot of the Canadian pilot in his just holding this big fuck off axe in the middle of Niagara Falls, Ontario, I guess.
And no one is saying anything.
There are no background people in this in this whole sequence. There are no other background also, figures.
Aren't they on the American side of the falls?
That was what. Yes, they are. They're on the American side of the falls.
The Cave of the Winds is on the American side, and it's on the American Falls, not even the Canadian Falls.
Yes.
So anyway, Rain's point was that you need to. There is more to all of this than just the fighting, and you need to relax.
Yeah,
and he says no.
In the subtitle, she says, "You're exhausted. You need to rest or recover or something."
Yeah, like that. And so, he's just like, "Don't tell me what to do." She's like, "Well, fine. Excuse me for caring." And they essentially split ways. And the line that gutted me was Rain saying, "Fine. I didn't choose to help you anyway."
Yeah,
and going back, a little flashback to that, or harken back to the episode where they mess with Domon's brain, and it's clearly the lovers spat and they're gonna come back to each other, but they don't get time.
Yeah. This is definitely not the first messy breakup I've seen in Niagara Falls, actually.
Yeah, but Rain's characterization this episode is a lot of trying to talk people out of murderous revenge, and it doesn't go well for any of it.
I'm not saying Rain made the wrong decision, but Rain made the wrong decision. I'm sorry. Domon is a bullheaded asshole. This Canadian logger man obviously cares for one thing: murder. Argo Golsky tried to kill your Gundam pilot most recently through kidnap, torture, and a fight. None of them should be on your list of I care for them. Like,
yeah.
Let this play out. It's fine. You can pilot that Gundam.
I feel like this is a classic scenario of the femme psyche where we must fix. This is not just a trope. It is how a lot of women are bred, like raised and stuff. And it's terrible for the psyche because, like you said, these people are bent on murder. There is no saving them.
Yeah, Domon is so hell-bent in this episode to fight. Why? What does this Gundam pilot have to do with your brother? Did your brother land in Canada, have a bunch of maple syrup, eat some fucking ham, and then bounce out with a poutine to go? You don't know where he is at this point. You went through your list of places. Now you're just picking fights to pick fights.
Yeah. And also, I do want to mention how beautiful Canada looked for this whole episode. For as much as they're oh yeah, the Earth is poisoned, polluted, and destroyed. Canada's fine. Canada's very green. All the water looks beautiful.
You can still go to Niagara Falls.
Yeah, it's still running.
Yeah, the Rockies, which are clearly right next door, a stroll just over.
Clearly.
They're also beautiful and well maintained. So I really don't know what the problem is.
Listen, maybe the reason why they wanted to leave Earth is not because Earth was trashed, but because something went wrong with some sort of weird spatial anomaly, and everything was pulled within walking distance of each other. We thought he was globetrotting, but really he's just walking the block.
Really?
Basically, Pangea happened again after some great cataclysm. All the continents came back together.
Because when he said, "Meet me in the Rocky Mountains," I was like, wait, what? We're playing fast and loose with geography, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, the best part of that sequence is he says, "Meet me in the Rocky Mountains," and then he starts walking away. He just strolling off. At not even a rushed pace, yeah, I'll get there later.
Well, the thing is that they're having this argument because Graham, and I do need to mention that for all of our characters who've had names like Domon, Cashew, and Chibbity Crockett, this guy's name is literally Andy Graham, which is weirdly normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and let's be honest, the only stereotype about him is the fact that he's a lumberjack.
I am a lumberjack and I'm
is
okay.
the Canadian version of martial arts, apparently.
Okay. Well, he does wear a toque. There is the consistent toque usage.
But did you see that his Gundam has a toque?
Yes.
yes, I did note. Although I actually thought, if you look really closely at his Gundam, it's kind of implied his Gundam has a mullet under that toque. So anyway.
I think we may have been in pandemic too long, because I saw the grizzly bear hug attack and just went, "Oh, that's nice."
By the way, is that Is that an effective strategy in giant robots? Like, I'm gonna just hug you until I break you? Like,
Well, isn't that what inspires the move at the end of the episode that I don't want to spoil it, but he learns to jump upside down and backwards in a robot. Which is his new move, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. It's actually the move he uses is actually different from the one he does on Argo. See, Argo tries to like belly to back suplex him. Yeah, wrestling reference. And Domon just flips backwards and pins him, like just uses the momentum to reverse it. He does a half gainer and a twist with this Gundam later. Like, it's a full on like twist and rotation to get this thing to work. And I'm like, when did you practice that? Did the dominatrix like burn this into your reflexes? Like, also useless character.
So
Okay.
but the whole reason that was effective is not only that it so effectively, from what I've seen and interpreted, all the damage that is done to the Gundam itself, the pain factor is transferred to the fighter through their condom suits. And anybody who is smaller, like me, who is bear hugged unexpectedly, and it's not calibrated, that will wind you, and you could, in fact, crack ribs.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair.
Domon being out of breath and near passing out when Grizzly Gundam is walking away, I was just like, yeah. I first was like, why is he? Oh, wait, I remember this happening to me, and it was very unpleasant.
But like, it just also like when that happens to him, I love how the camera switches to outside the Shining Gundam, and it pans down as if Domon is outside of the Gundam and passing out when we know he's actually inside of it.
Yeah, there's some interesting play between inside and outside in this episode. There's a sequence later where Domon's outside and it starts firing while it's like falling from the sky essentially, and then he almost just kind of appears inside it. The fighting is fairly straightforward in this sequence, but the political fallout is a little bit more complicated, because although I agree with you, Jason, we don't really have a good reason why Domon's fighting or wants to fight Andrew Graham. It's established that he's going to do it no matter what, and that Andy prefers to just fight the Bolt Gundam. That's all he really wants. Is not even to fight, is the information about the Bolt Gundam.
Yeah,
right.
Like, there's no real reason why he doesn't give it to him. He's just like, no, I want to fight you because I want to fight things. And also, they're having this argument on the Maid of the Mist. I wanted to make that very clear.
That was a nice call.
Purchased boat tickets to get onto this fight on a boat.
Basically, this entire sequence was informed, as far as I could tell, by Superman 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I still.
So in a weird turnaround that seemed like very un-Canadian to me, Andrew decides he's going to run off with Rain as a kidnap victim, essentially, and walk to the Rockies right next door, where he will meet Domon when he's ready to, I don't know, give him the information. Like, it just seems like... Like,
Rain's the one with the animation. You could just... Information. You could be like, hey, can you give me the info on the Bolt Gundam, and then...
She's going to have way better information anyway.
Yeah.
She's got stats
like, she's the one who knows how it works.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, you can punch it. I punched it.
Yeah, Domon's like, I punched it and I squeezed its head. That's how I was.
Like, I punched it and it was really well armored, and then I had to punch it again.
Yeah.
Like he actually took the person he needed. Like, and at that point, Rain was not in Domon's corner. Like, he could have been like, hey, just tell me this information, and it wouldn't even be a traitorous thing. Like,
this episode would have been way better if Andrew and Rain just went up to Clifton Hill. Maybe they checked out Ripley's. Maybe they went through the wax museum, grabbed a burger at the BK, said hi to the Russian family that runs it, and just, had a little exchange of information and called it a day.
Yeah, like, he's like, Domon won't take you to all these places and relax. Look, I've been cutting wood for the last 75 years. My muscles need a break, so let's go grab a burger. I know a great place. We can go to the wax museum. You'll love it. And at the end of it, she's like, "Oh, and here's this, thumb drive with all the information you need on it." Like, that's the end of the episode, and Domon's like, "Fight me!" And he's like walking off, and he's like, "Sorry."
Yeah,
I don't need you anymore.
To even underline the unnecessariness of Domon's position, we cut away from that to the Bolt Gundam guys, and Domon just answers with an unnecessary explosion, which he immediately cops to. He's like, whoops, I guess that was a little bit of an overreaction.
He murders all those security guys.
Yeah, they're just sort of like surrounded by video game exploding barrels for no reason.
They catch fire.
The commandant is like, we should expect something. Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah. In the subtitle, she says, he's unpredictable, so we're going to alert level 1. And they're like, "Are you sure, ma'am?" And then at that moment is when they explode and die.
I wanted that close in on her face, looking at one of the security guys going, "Told you so."
Yeah.
Also, like, all of these Russian security guys are identical dudes in, like, trench coats and sunglasses.
So what people don't know is that the mind that the Russians have with all of the Gundam pilots and Gundam piters, yeah, me make words good. Gundam pilots and such, they have like some kind of chemical that's turning them all into identical, very pliable clones.
Yes, all those Gundam fighters that they've kidnapped and locked away are just becoming their MK Ultra agents.
But I mean, if you look back at that episode, they all look the same.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, I think you're ascribing a plot reason to a thing they just used to recycle animation.
Maybe, but everybody likes my tin hat theories because sometimes they make sense.
They're not any more out there than the actual plot, so I'll allow it.
And also, why would Russia allow Domon involved in this anyway? Like, they're on the way to Neo Canada to fight a Gundam fight anyway. Like, I thought that, one, you couldn't refuse it. Once you were challenged, I've never seen anyone refuse other than the Canadian. 2, once they ask, once they're like, "I challenge you," you have to fight. Like, how is it unofficial? Like, how did this become an unofficial fight? He asked.
I want to have an addendum. France refused after being challenged.
That is true. George did, but he did it in a much classier way. Like,
well, I mean,
also George is already doing a fight.
Yeah. But so I think there is a rule of refusal somewhere in there.
But I feel like George refused because, like he said, he was already fighting someone, whereas Domon just shows up and is like, "Hey, let's fight, let's go." And half the time they're not ready.
Yeah, Andrew kind of frames it as a deferral, right? He's like, "I'll fight the Bolt Gundam, and once he's dead, you can just have my head. I don't care." And so, he refuses the fight, but he's also kind of saying, "I'll fight you later, but not really fight you at all." And I do like that the Russian lady gives us some hardcore Lady Un glasses, though, during this sequence. That was fantastic.
Yes.
I feel like the Japanese government should have been listening to this thing and been like, "Domon, just go sit on your ass. We could easily get a win. We could get 2 wins out of this. We could easily get 2 of our top contenders out of the way."
Well, and that's kind of the logic that Domon's trying to use on the Russians, right? He's like, "Let me go in," or what is it? Essentially, "Let me go in first, and then it'll be easy. You can just mop up whoever is left over." And it's kind of he wants to go in first because of rain, as we established near the end. But
he wants to go in just because he wants to go in because he wants to fight,
and he wants to try that new move.
Well, I think I agree that originally he wants to fight, but in the end, and I'm skipping ahead here, his non-legal move to attack the actual cockpit, and that's when they declare that it's not a real fight, it's not a commissioned fight or whatever. Is sort of outside of the purview of the rules, right? Like, if he was actually just looking for a legit fight, that would have disqualified him.
Right.
Yeah, Domon,
because that's just the murder strike.
Yeah, also, Domon is just the biggest hypocrite. He's the biggest hypocrite. this is the second week in a row where he has interfered, or the second time he's interfered in someone's match when he would not let Chivity do the same. Like, he's a hypocrite. And like, he only likes listening to the rules of the Gundam fight when it behooves him.
Well, listen, if you're looking for consistency out of this, you may be in the wrong place, because there's also a lot of discussion about how, Andrew Graham being stepping up with the Grizzly is the only way that he can fight Argo. It's the only way. And we're literally one episode from, what was his name? Chico Rodriguez, proving that absolutely incorrect. You can just murder a bunch of people. That is also a perfectly capable solution. You buy a knife, you buy a blow dart, and you get out there, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, Argo then were kidnapping him left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, you could have just shown up in that town and be like, oh, I guess I'm in this prison now. Time to shiv Argo.
Yeah, and what would it have mattered? You're only out for revenge. So you would have been in prison with Argo, shank, and then you're good to go. And you're strong enough at that point to just fight your way out, because that's what Argo did. He ripped
To be fair, he's been working on that commando log cabin for a while now, and he doesn't want to finish, or doesn't want to leave before the project's finished.
It is an amazing log cabin. It is pretty fantastic.
The thing I love in the cabin is the photo that he has, which is like a black and white old-timey photo of him and his wife. Like, he has like the photo that they got from Canada's Wonderland.
But listen, that was the last happiest moment in his life, okay?
So we actually, I want to talk about that. So we go through the sequence where it's explained to Rain what happened. There was an attack on the space station, as we established in the opening, and Argo was the space pirate who somehow, I guess he was involved in ramming the thing or whatever happened there, but he had come aboard. He had never killed before, which is a little weird because I'm pretty sure he was murdering people left and right in that prison. But he was attempting to save them, I guess, because he was a nice pirate who rammed into their station. And all of this basically, what?
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but they're trying to give Argo a face turn.
Yeah, and also she says at the end of the episode that I got a report that says the space police were the ones that forced Argo to ram into you. No, he was running from the police and lost control of his car. If he wasn't being a space pirate, they wouldn't have had to chase him.
Okay, so there was an interesting, I don't know if you guys caught this, there was an interesting difference between the English and the subtitle. So in the English, they kept, and this goes back to, I guess, what Hugh had said previously about them trying to tone it down and make it a little more Walmart friendly in some ways. They kept using the term erase. He erased my wife. He erased her, whatever. In the subtitles, it was clearly just kill. He killed my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still technically responsible for his wife's death.
Yeah, if Argo had not been doing space piratey things, he wouldn't have been in that situation.
Space crimes.
Yeah, space crimes. He wouldn't have been in that
position. Space gay, do space crimes.
So here's my, because I have to throw logic wrench into everything. Andy should be dead too, because there was a fracture in the hull and they were open to space
and
without helmets.
Yeah.
For minutes. She let out a full scream, which is actually a good thing to do if you are ever sucked into space. If you expel all the oxygen from your lungs, it will keep them from exploding.
Yeah.
Fun fact. So
have to do with the absolute zero of space, but your lungs won't explode.
Well, you might survive 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So they should technically both be dead.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe Argo saved him. It's not really clear.
Yeah.
He wakes up on a different, he wakes up in a space hospital.
But the way that this was all panning out, I was like, did he kidnap the wife and the wife is actually alive?
That's what I thought too.
Thank you.
Okay. I had that feeling. I feel like it was going to be a reveal that actually the dominatrix lady is his wife. We weren't going to get a confirmation outside of at the end of the episode like when he's crying, cutting wood, she's on the ship with Argo, look with a locket on, and in the locket is the picture, like the wedding picture. And like that's all you get. Like that's the confirmation, because it felt like there was going to be a bigger reveal, because I feel like the whole Argo trying to save her thing was obvious. Like, because if he wanted her to just die, then why would he have come down there in the first place?
Yeah. I mean, you could have really done something with it. You could have even gone the other way and been like, Argo and the wife were secret lovers, and Argo was coming to whatever, and maybe Andrew Graham is living a lie the entire time and should really just accept that his wife has moved on, but that's just not what we get.
Man, by the way, quick, I thought Jurd would have liked this. When we see the actual space police vehicles, I was getting major Pat Labor vibes from them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was hoping we get to see a little like transformation, like a little space police mech thing, but we didn't. I was very sad. That's also another spinoff I'd watch, like the police force in the Gundam universe. Like I'd watch that.
Yeah, kind of a GCPD approach where it's like trying to deal with these massive robots, but you don't really have the right equipment. Anyhow, we're getting a little sidetracked.
Okay, so Rain decides that she is not going to stand for someone else also going on murderous revenge.
Only
Domon
can go for murderous revenge.
Yeah, like she's like trying really hard to stop Graham's murderous revenge while she's a part of a murderous revenge plot.
And it's actually a familial one. Like, like she's going to allow this man to murder his brother, but not allow this man to kill the man responsible for his wife's death.
I think she's working on the long game for Domon, but it's not working out so well for her.
Well, you can say that, but I mean, okay, I guess actually back to Spence's point to discuss awkward relationships I have encountered in real life. There is the flip side of that woman who always tries to save the dude, which is that moment when the dude comes around and is like, "No, baby, I really love you," which is exactly what we get at the end of this episode. Like,
yeah.
I want to know why she decides to slip into the Grizzly Gundam, though, to try to stop this fight.
Like, I did not understand.
Don't know.
Like, I just...
Like, she needs to be in there so that Domon can use his move to, like, rip the hull open, but it makes no sense.
Yeah, like...
It's like, if you want Domon to save you, don't be where he's going to be punching.
Or better yet...
Also, these people all have radios. You can, like, just talk to him on the radio. You don't need to be inside his cockpit.
Yeah, you could have literally just not gotten into the Gundam and then been like, "Hey, Domon, I'm not in the Gundam. Come pick me up."
So, that elicited a 12-year-old laugh from me, Hugh. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Like, I just... like, all of this, like, is just... It's so... Like, this feels like a telenovela. Like... I feel like this is definite. Like, you're right, Jurd. Like, this should have been like Argo was actually the one in love with the wife, and he lost his heart that day too. Like, it would have just made this seem so much. It would have made it so much better. Like, so much more sense. And then we could have had the revelation that Domon's heart grew a slight bit bigger at the end of this episode. It didn't go 3 times the size because he's still an asshole, but.
Yeah.
Showed some humanity.
Yeah, so there's a lot of robot punching. Domon does a highly illegal move to like rip open the cockpit to save Rain.
I just want to call out a very specific thing that happens in that sequence though, because he goes, "I'm going to show you my new trick." And then he jumps forward and just punches him a bunch in the belly. Like, that's not what ends up being the trick in the end. But that sequence is hilarious because it's just like, wait, this is just the thing you do all the time. You're just punching him.
And it's also the thing he did to Argo that also didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So I did want to also point out in the sequence that to get Rain out of the way, Andrew knocks her out, essentially, which doesn't seem very Canadian. But what does seem very Canadian is he begins to immediately apologize, and in the next 2 minutes manages to drop 5 sorries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that gut punch hurt me.
Yeah.
Because it was not just a here, let me knock you out. It was a here, let me wind you and possibly break your ribs and puncture various internal organs kind of punch. He did not hold back.
It was definitely a diaphragm and liver punch. So like the solar plexus is definitely hurt. That floating rib is probably gone. Rain's probably going to need some be taped up and be out of commission for a few weeks. Like that was some, listen.
And she's not on Shibbity Crockett's payroll, so she doesn't have that health insurance.
Yeah, but fortunately, she's in Canada.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Wait,
they though?
Did the punch happen on the Canadian side or the American side?
Well, it happened in the Rockies. So.
Oh, well.
So they get Neo Healthcare from Neo Canada.
That's good at least.
But the fight ends up breaking off part of the Rockies, I guess. And there's a collapse, and that brings us to a draw. But like, if you're in a legal punch-up fight, I don't think you really have a draw. I don't think that's a thing, especially once you've ripped the chest open of your opponent.
Yeah, like this episode doesn't understand the concept of being inside or outside of a Gundam, but it also doesn't understand the concept of an official fight and a backyard alley Gundam brawl.
Yeah, because Domon opens his cockpit to try and get Rain out of the lumber Gundam, and then the promontory they're on like breaks off, so like Domon like falls in his cockpit into the river, and like the Shining Gundam's like the upholstery in the Shining Gundam is wrecked. Like they're gonna have to replace that whole thing. Rain's gonna be in there with like a hairdryer for weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hope 3 episodes from now they pull out a salmon or something.
Also, this is the river the lumber Gundam came out of. Why is Domon floating in this river? This is the deepest river under the sun. Like,
well, they did show that he was standing on a rock formation that was like jutting up from the riverbed.
Yeah, might have been the collapsed stone beneath him.
Yeah, there was a lot of not understanding how rivers work in this episode between this sequence and the sequence where they're fighting in the Niagara Rapids.
Oh, yes.
I've never been to Niagara Falls, so I just assume Niagara Falls falls into like an abyss into the earth. Like it's just an endless pit that they were like somehow fighting on and or floating in.
Niagara Falls is basically where Hugh and I go to high five, so we definitely have to do something about that.
Yeah, because like I said, I've never been there, so I'm assuming like that's just the bottomless pit, right? Like there's no bottom to that. Like,
oh yeah, that's basically how that works.
Sure, yeah, that's totally. There's totally not like a limestone outcropping 2 feet behind where the falls ends or anything. There's definitely enough space for a giant robot to be there.
Just shove it in the back.
So, of all the things that they do in Niagara Falls, I'm mad that they don't like end up fighting in Devil's Hole, because Devil's Hole is the most hilariously named geological feature like in New York State.
Well, speaking of things that
Devil's Hole.
Speaking of things that make you mad, though, so we've got that sequence where Domon's on the bottom and the Grizzly Gundam or the Lumber Gundam, whatever you want to call it, is hanging from the cliff with the cockpit open. And Argo shows up in the Bolt Gundam, and he's like kind of standing there in a threatening pose. And then he spares them. He helps the Lumber Gundam up, and everything's fine. And Not Lady Un says, "It all makes sense." And in that moment, I was about ready to throw my laptop, because nothing in this goddamn episode has made any goddamn sense.
Right there with you.
The question I have is, like, we know all of these robots have, like, rocket packs. Like, all of these robots can fly at least a little bit. There's no reason, like, that he should need, like, a hand up, like he's a mountaineer.
Yeah,
like lost his footing.
Like, you know what? If this whole entire episode was not in the Gundams, it would probably be a better episode. Like, if they were fighting, like, a fist fight between Andrew and Argo on a cliffside, like, I'd watch that. Like,
you might be able to develop some real tension, actually.
Like, and especially if he's, like, wielding he's going for murder, so he's probably going to be using that hand axe for effect. He's going to be firing for effect with that hand axe. Like, I would have watched that, especially since we know Argo, like, obviously, like, him and Argo are, like, as strong as one another. Like, it's even in that aspect, which I think would have made a better fight than most things that Domon does, because Domon has, like, inhuman abilities. Also,
And also is inconsistent.
yeah, because guns should not work against Domon. I think we've established this, that guns should not work. Like, bullets have no effect on a person who can catch bullets. But maybe they were too close. Maybe those guys that he burnt to a crispy critter who showed up at the end, or showed up earlier to put the guns in the back of his head, were too close for him to catch. But yeah. So, although I will give this episode credit. I think the last scene though, like with the revelation of that Argo was trying to save her, and the debris knocked her out or whatever, and she died that way, and he like breaks down and cries. I think that's an effective scene for his character's development. Although it's kind of ruined by Argo's final words of, "If you're going to come for me for revenge, then come at me." What? Like
he did.
Like he tried to. Like,
well, I actually kind of dug that, because I think we get a little bit of Argo being established as also having some guilt over what happened at the station. Now, I will say that it's revealed that it's all a misunderstanding, right? This is not the first Canadian who's defended his girlfriend's honor out behind some Montreal strip club and discovered that, oops, it was just a misunderstanding in the first place. And it happens that, Argo was actually attempting to save her, and it wasn't really, a murder plot gone awry. So I guess they exchange sorry buds and go about their day.
I see. My thing is, again, back to this telenovela, back to this through a love story. If he revealed to Argo that, like, when he's fighting Argo, he's like, why did you have to try to save her? You should have just let me die with her. And that's why he wants revenge. Like, really, he's saying he wants revenge, but really he wants to die so he can be with his wife. See, that would have, again, been more poignant than just crying alone in the woods while you split wood.
And then the end of the episode is Domon slipping him Chico Rodriguez's number or something? Like, how does that go?
So what I think is very well done as far as storyboarding and animating in that scene. It's a very Inigo Montoya thing with where, he had this whole life built around revenge. But he didn't get that revenge because that revenge was unwarranted. So now he has to process all of this rage and this grieving that he's been holding back for 5 years. So I thought, and I will say it now, this was my favorite part of the episode because it showed an actual emotional consequence of the way that this plot happened. And now he has to deal with his grieving in a new way. So I thought that was beautiful.
I also think that I also feel like they that the Marvel movies stole this, because I think Captain America did the same thing with Splitting the Wood. But I do think this is kind of poetic in the sense that Domon witnessed what happens when you fill your life with just revenge. And it didn't go well for him. And going back to what Rain said at the beginning, you're exhausted. This fighting isn't everything. You need to relax. Like, you need to, let some of this stuff go and get better. Like, Rain is speaking truth, and Domon has seen the outcome of not listening to that truth. The question is, will he listen? And what we've seen at the end of this episode is probably not.
No, he will never listen. He will never listen because it's taking advice from a woman. And, he has too much machismo for that.
And as much crap as Chibbity Crockett puts his girls through, he does listen to them because he allows them to do things that benefit him. Like I understand Chibbity's supposed to be the cocky American, but at least he listens to his team. At least when his team is like, yeah, we're doing this thing, we're going to do the thing. And he's like, all right, bet. You let me know and I will go fight the thing. Like, he communicates, sort of, or at least better than Domon. Again, I am always for Chibbity Crockett because that name is amazing.
Shall we roll on with favorite things at this point?
My favorite thing was definitely just the whole nonsensical, like, Niagara Falls sequence of like Rain wanting to do touristy things and Domon being like, "No, I'm here to fight," and she's like, "Just enjoy this wonder for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of not Gundam BS, please."
My favorite thing is the fact that they redid the old school The Thing movie logo with the lumberjack. Like that. It was the backlit, standing there, ominous, glowing eyes. I was like, that's a horror movie. Like I was like, oh my god, that's The Thing's movie cover. That's like my favorite
I think
part.
he got an actual horror sting too.
Yeah. My favorite thing was something we kind of glossed over a little bit when Domon approaches the Russians about sort of teaming up to fight the lumber Gundam. That explosion sequence he causes, he delivers the line, the actual line, "Oh, I only intended to surprise you a little bit," which is just like, oh my god.
I'm only trying to surprise you a little bit with
Are we
murder.
sure he's not Michael Bay in disguise?
But, like, was he like sneaking around them for like 20 minutes setting charges and stuff? Like, how did that work?
Also, would they have not found those barrels conspicuous just lined up at their landings position? Like,
Did he bring those barrels? I assume that they were their barrels.
were they maybe there to refuel? Maybe they were in the process of refueling.
I think that's the most likely thing, is that they were refueling barrels and Domon set charges underneath them.
Also, he walks through that fire, by the way.
Well, yeah, machismo.
He has that cloak.
He's wearing that cape, yeah.
Yeah, he has the cloak on. So what was your favorite part, Spence?
I already said it.
The,
Andy Graham crying, dealing with his rage and grief at the very end was very poignant.
Yes.
I also hope we see him again and his toque.
Yeah, my closing thought is that either this sequence, this grief of and next stage of loss, will either cause him to immediately shrink back down to like a tiny size, or the next time we see him, he's going to be twice as buff.
Yeah, I think he shows up in the second like half of the series and hasn't learned anything.
And there you go, folks. You got Mobile Fighter G Gundam Episode 8, Revenge of the Space Police, where no one learns anything.
So you can find all of our the show notes at nostalgiaviolence.com. Follow everything I do at hughjodonnell.com.
You can find me over at skinner.fm.
You can find everything I do at nerdswithvoices.com.
And you can find me at resonantmoon.com. But I also have an Etsy shop, and you can look for Fibermancers, the number 4 higher on Etsy, and you can find all of my really cool crochet and knit accessories that I do with my friend and business partner, Val.
Yes.
It is super cool.
They are great. So
I have a dice bag. Dice bag.
Nice. Until next time, just enjoy Niagara Falls.
I only meant to surprise you a little.
With murder.